Welcome to Emran's podcast, episode number 61. This is your host, Suman Silwal.
One thing that has been, key to my success is just being very disciplined about my training.
Visit emrans.com to listen to our previous podcast shows, links to our social media channels, as well as get discount codes for SVSU Marathon and all Southeastern Trail Series events. I would like to welcome Adam Roach to Emran's podcast. And Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
So have you recovered from your speedy, BigSur Marathon? You and I, we ran the BigSur, and I think we also ran Boston as well, Boston2BigSur, and you had a great performance in both races. How is your recovery going?
Recovery's going well. I'm back running again, and I'm not sore anymore. So that's good.
Definitely. Usually, how long does it take for you to recover? Because what was your time in Boston and BigSur?
In Boston, I ran 2:35, and in BigSur, I was 2:31. I definitely was still feeling the effects of Boston for a week to 10 days after, and it wasn't until just a couple of days before BigSur Marathon that I started feeling like I'd be able to perform again.
Definitely. I guess it helped you to have an extra few days for BigSur. Usually it used to be, 6 days apart, correct?
Yeah, it's most years it's 6 days apart. The Boston being the last or the third Monday in April, and BigSur is the last Sunday. So these next 3 years, 2017, 18, and 19, they'll all be 2 weeks apart.
Definitely, yeah. And those of us who are looking forward to go there next few years, I think it's pretty cool to do that, I guess. So you'll have extra week that some of us don't recover as quickly. Before we go on, talk about a little bit more of BigSur, tell us about how did you start your running journey? Were you a runner all your life, or did you pick it up later on in your life?
I started running in high school, competed in the mile and the 2 mile, and continued competing through college, and ran the mile, 5K. And then after college, I started taking up road racing, and after a few years, moved up to the marathon distance, and I've been focused on that ever since.
So what is the furthest distance have you run? Do you do trail too, or because you live in Monterey area, correct?
Yes. I've done a few trail races. My focus is mostly road marathons, which, the longest I've done is marathon. I haven't ventured into the ultra scene yet.
So what stops you going to the ultra scene?
I don't know. I feel like I still have more to do and improve in the marathon. Having, in high school run the mile and then moved up in college to the 5K, it's hard to go back down in distance. So I'm afraid that once I move up to running, 50K, 50 mile, that, the marathon won't, be my focus anymore. So I want to, improve a little more in the marathon before I decide to venture into the ultra scene.
Definitely, going to the ultra distance, there's a lot of changes happens. It happened to me, and it happens to a lot of friends. You get a little bit slower once you get to ultra distance, just because the way you had to run. But some people don't get slower, and it all depends on you, I guess. A lot of my friends, they do both road and trail and ultra distance and shorter distance, and they perform well in both. Talking about, you just mentioned about you want to improve a little bit more. Even for us, looking at 2:31, 2:35 for Boston and BigSur in Boston, and that's fast. And what kind of improvement are you looking for? People like us, we're barely running 3.5, 4 hours marathon, 4.5 hours marathon. So we're thinking you have achieved everything you need to. Tell us what are you looking at?
Most of just looking to improve on my fastest marathon time. The fastest I've gone is 2:24. And it's, I have a feeling I can run faster. I just haven't done it yet. I just need to put together a real solid, block of training. Now, obviously, BigSur and Boston aren't the best courses to go out and run a PR on. Boston, the heat caught up to me a little bit, and, BigSur being so tough, it's going to slow you down. So, but I definitely have my work cut out for me.
Definitely. I think your stage, any seconds or any minutes, it gets harder and harder, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to where, you can put together these huge training blocks, and make vast improvements, which, it only ends up coming up to be like 1 minute, which is, it takes a lot of work to improve 1 minute.
Yeah, it's funny the way we look at our time. I'm having a problem, my training problem, and trying to improve, and get back to where I was. So, and we're talking about mine is like 40-50 minutes that I want to get back to where I was about even 2015. You're trying to just cut only 1 second, half a second, or half a minute. So tell me, what kind of training do you have to apply for you to go that fast and that further distance? Marathon is pretty further distance. What kind of training do you do?
So most of my training, one of my big focus is just sheer number of miles, where leading up to Boston2BigSur, I built up to a max of 100 miles a week, which most of the miles were most weeks were more like 70 to 80 miles a week. But the other components of my training is some quicker training. I like to do mile repeats, which I did probably on average about once a week. I would do 4 to 6 mile repeats around just under 5 minute per mile pace. And then another workout that I really was part of my bread and butter training was a 16-mile tempo run, which I would run right around marathon pace.
Wow. What is the furthest you run for your training run, the long run? What is your long run like?
Most marathons I train for, it's between 20 and 26 miles. I don't really go further than that. I normally try to get at least 1 or 2 runs at or close to marathon distance.
Definitely. But for your shorter distance, do you try to go faster on the shorter distance and slower on the longer distance? How do you average that out speed wise?
A lot of times I do end up running faster on the longer distances, just because those are the days that I'm really focused, and I'm I rest for them, and I make those my quicker days. Although sometimes when I do like the longest of my runs, it's not as fast. Where if I'm doing a 20 to 26 miler, I might do it at just over 6 minute pace. Where if I'm doing a longer tempo run of 15 to 16 miles, I'll do that 5:30 to 5:40. It seems like a lot of my shorter runs are my recovery days, so those are normally slower in pace.
Yeah, a lot of time people reverse that, and I myself reverse shorter distance a little bit faster, longer distance a little bit slower. But I think you have a different way to do it, so that's what it works for you.
Yeah.
So when you do for you, and you're in such a beautiful area, Monterey area, so the hill, do you actually try to find hills? Because BigSur, and it felt like BigSur Marathon has really hills. I mean, it's comparatively, when I was looked at elevation, it compared pretty close to Boston, but man, that course has hills.
Yeah, I think Hurricane Point is 5 times more elevation gain than Heartbreak Hill. So, and throughout the course, there's rolling hills. And even training for BigSur around Monterey, I find myself trying to avoid hills because it's just so, hilly in this area. Most of my runs, I'll run down to the coast and follow the coast around, because it's the only place that you can really run flat. And then I would say 1 or 2 days a week, I'll get on some trails where there's some really tough climbs, even tougher than what we see on BigSur course.
So when you go on a trail, do you try to put the speed on, or just try to do the climb? How does that work for you?
Some days I'll go hard, some days I'll go easy. It's normally just how I'm feeling that day and what I have planned for the workout.
Definitely. So as you progress on your training cycle, what kind of race do you put in a year? I mean, do you have? I know you have done Boston2BigSur several years in time, correct? Or how often, and what other marathon do you do throughout the years?
So most years I've run 2 marathons a year. I'll normally schedule one for the spring and one for the fall. There's been a few years that I've done more than that. This year will likely be one, having run both Boston and BigSur this spring. But now it's just a matter of, I'm kind of in a recovery and planning phase now, figuring out what I want to do this fall and in training for that.
So what is your training like for the summer? Do you do is the summer training in your area, is it as hot as we have it here in Alabama?
No, it's very mild actually. the average temperature from January to July in Monterey, it's only 10 degrees difference. There's a average high in July is 70 and average high in January is 60. So I've lived here for 6 years, and it took me about 3 years to realize we even had seasons. I grew up in Michigan, where it's very distinct seasons. If it's January, if it's July, but here it's you could have it's very similar.
It's eternal spring. I think that's what they call.
It's funny. You're trying to go back and remember like when a certain event was, or when a run that you did was, and on the Monterey Peninsula here, it's really hard because you don't have these weather indicators where I grew up in Michigan. If there was snow on the ground, it was winter. If it was leaves, it was fall, and if it was hot, it was summer. Where you don't really have that indication here.
Let's switch the topic a little bit from training to racing. You have done Big Sur. How many times have you done Big Sur?
6 times.
6 times, and you were overall winner for four out of 6. Tell us about the course. People who don't know the Big Sur, and tell us about the course. And I mean, for personally, it was just a beautiful course I've ever ran. It's probably one of the hardest course. So I mean, I ran once and then drove through the next day, and I'm still kind of trying to understand the course. Tell us about that.
So the course is really just incredibly beautiful, almost the entire way. It's just amazing. And I've run the race 6 times. I've gone out and run the course, outside of the race many times, and every single time you just get this very special feeling because it's just so beautiful. You're out away from cities. There's not these buildings all around. You're running through the woods. You're running along the coast. It's just this incredible feeling to do the course. But to go into a little more detail, it starts in the town of Big Sur, and you run the first 4 miles is downhill through the hills until you open up and you make it to the coastline. From then you follow the coast. It's kind of rolling hills for a few miles, and then mile 10 marks the biggest climb of the course, which is about 600 feet in elevation gain for the next 2 miles as you climb Hurricane Point. From Hurricane Point, there's a nice big downhill stretch to the halfway point at Bixby Bridge. And from Bixby Bridge, it's just, up and down rolling hills. Some of them are, decent climbs of, around 100 feet or so. But it's just this beautiful coastline all the way to the finish in Carmel.
Definitely. Tell us, what is your favorite part of the course?
My favorite part is actually, it's just before climbing Hurricane Point, and you come down and you make this curve down into this little ravine where you need to you come down to the bottom point before you make the climb, and we have these drummers, and they're just like, they're so loud, and it just gets you all pumped up for the big climb that you have for the next 2 miles.
Definitely. Those of you listening, and if you visit Marathon Run's Facebook page, I have videos from that drum. I enjoyed from that point, even though I really didn't like to climb the Hurricane Point. But I loved it because I'm from Nepal, and I felt like the whole course I'm running in Nepal, so some part in Nepal. So going up in the hill, going all the way to the piano guy, I think that's just incredible. So also tell us about you run so fast on that course. What is the hardest point for you in that course? Because Hurricane Point comes really early, correct? It's not as difficult.
Yeah, the hardest point for me is normally, in most years, has been, there's a very, very last climb that they put right at mile 25. On that point, you're just, you're pushing with everything you have left, and you have to make this one last climb before you can descend the last half mile, and that's always the toughest part for me.
Yeah, I agree. Because I was telling the guy that I was telling him that somebody told me that there's no more hill.
Yeah.
He told me, look at my face. I'm straight face. There's no hill. So I promise. So, yeah, it was funny. So in this course, also let's talk about a little bit about the weather. This year we had really nice weather. I was told. This has been my first time running Big Sur. Tell us about the weather variation you get in that part of the country.
Well, temperature-wise, it's very, consistent and mild. I've yet to run a year that it was, really, really hot. But the one thing that does affect a lot of people is the wind, where, being right on the coast, the wind is a huge factor. And I would say almost most years that I've run it, it's been a strong headwind almost the whole way. And at certain points, it picks up even more. They actually call it Hurricane Point because the wind can be so extreme there.
So this year we had really mild weather. Is that how you consider?
Yeah, in the 6 years that I've run it, this is probably the least amount of wind that I've seen.
How do you deal with the wind and such a condition?
You just end up slowing down. You got to try to fight into it. If there's other people around you, you can kind of tuck in behind some runners. You just got to fight through it.
Definitely. Adam, you had a great race this year. You had to compete with another champion, Michael Wardian. Tell us about how was it for you this year compared to other years?
It's actually really similar to a few other years that I've raced against Michael. It seems like we've developed quite the rivalry at this race where it's been a two-man race for, I think, 4 out of the 6 years that I've run the race. Michael's just such a tough competitor. What he's done on, in the ultra scene, what he was able to do earlier this year with the 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents was just incredible. So I knew I had my work cut out for me this year, even though I had beaten Michael in the past. I knew it was going to be especially tough this year.
And both of you chased each other from Boston to Big Sur, correct?
That's correct.
So I was told that on the course, everybody knew you. But they didn't know Michael. So that's what I was told, because you being a local hero over there. So I guess it was hard for Michael to compete on your home turf.
Yeah, Michael actually, we didn't really speak too much along the course, but he did make one joke about, we were about 15 miles in, and after probably as we're running, side by side almost the whole way, about the 30th person yelled, "Go Adam!" to the two of us going by. He made a joke saying, "Oh, there's no pressure on you, Adam."
So looks like you guys had a great race. It was wonderful to see you after the race, and you were still walking around, and that was great. Adam, you have run Big Sur for many years, and you lived there and run there, and we're coming from outside. Tell us about what is the biggest struggle for you at Big Sur running the marathon? You mentioned that 25 miles that hill is difficult. Tell us some tips about what we need to watch out for.
The biggest thing you got to watch out for is the climb up Hurricane Point. It's right at mile 10, so it's late enough in the race that you're starting to feel fatigue, but it's still early enough that you can't really go for it, because you would pay for it later. So that's definitely the biggest aspect of the course that you need to keep in mind. The other part of the course that is very difficult is you have this first 4 miles downhill and you're in the woods, and there's really the trees are all blocking the wind, and you come out to the coastline, and most years you're welcomed with this 30 mile per hour headwind, and it's a huge adjustment, because you're going from being running this very very fast pace to having to slow down right away. So, and those are two of the most difficult parts of the course to overcome.
Definitely. And if we are training for the Big Sur, how do we train for that?
You really just need to run a lot of hills, and you have to do, you have to find a course that is continuously up and down, because that's the way the course is laid out. Where I grew up in Michigan, it was totally flat, and I don't even know where I would find a place. We used to run highway overpasses just to get some elevation gain, but yeah, you just gotta find a nice hilly place to run to kind of simulate that terrain.
Definitely. Adam, we're ready to move forward with our interview, go to sprint round. I haven't done this in a while. I'm gonna ask you a few series of questions. It can go long or short, however you want to do it. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. What type of shoes do you wear?
I race in Nike Lunar Tempos.
And what do you train in?
I train in a pair of Asics.
Do you like both brands? Do you do other brands than Asics and Nike, or?
Those are what I wear now. I used to wear some Pearl Izumis, but they stopped. I stopped carrying running shoes.
What type of GPS device do you use?
Garmin.
Do you like Garmin? Because I use Suntos, and I kind of I haven't moved away from Garmin. I started with the Garmin, but
I've always had a Garmin, and I really like the model I have right now. I think it's a 620 maybe.
Yeah, I don't follow Garmin anymore. I have 410, and that's the last type I have. So I still use it. So. It doesn't, because for ultra running, it doesn't go long enough for me. So, what inspires you to do running day in, day out?
I just love running. If I don't run one day, it's like I forgot to brush my teeth. It's just something I have to do.
So, do you run every day, or?
Pretty much. I mean, if it's the day after a marathon, or a day that I have a crazy travel day, I might not run. But other than that, unless I have a very particular reason, I go for a run every day.
So, what is the best running advice have you ever received?
One of my good friends that ran for a long time, he actually he said he always asks the question, "Why do you run?" Because it's not fun. And I mean, I actually think it's fun, but he actually said, running isn't fun. It's rewarding, which I think that's just a good phrase to think about. It's a very rewarding sport. When you when you cross the finish line in a marathon, you feel great.
Yeah, for me, it takes about a half an hour to feel great. So once I go through the beer line, a couple of beers, then I'm back. That's what happened at Big Sur and Boston. Are you only a road runner, trail runner? What do you do? Do both? You did mention that you train on the trail, but have you done the trail races as well?
I've done a few trail races, but my main focus is on the road.
So are you a downhill racer or uphill climber?
I'm actually better at the downhills. Most times in Big Sur, I'll be able to make up ground on the downhills on people.
So what kind of speed do you put up when you go up in the Hurricane Point? But how many miles? You said a couple of miles, correct? That's about 2 miles of a climb.
Yeah, it's 2 miles, and I think my average pace for Big Sur this year was right around 5:45 per mile, and I think the first mile climbing Hurricane Point was a 6:45, and then the second mile was a 6:15. But the second mile it kind of levels out a little bit. The bulk of the climb is that first mile where it's steep, and the second mile you're tired from the first half of it, but you can still run at a faster clip on the second half.
Definitely. But when you go downhill, you're going some 4 mile or 5 or something like that. Is that what you're doing to make up your time?
Yeah, the mile just past Hurricane Point is always my fastest mile, and I'll be right around 5 minutes. I think a few years I've slipped under 5, but most years 4:50, 5:10 area. For
your racing and running training, what kind of hydration plan do you use?
When I'm racing, I just grab whatever's on the course. I'll every aid station I'll just try to drink a little bit of water and a little bit of Gatorade. At Boston, it actually became a lot more important because of the heat, and I was every aid station I was grabbing as much water as I could, drinking as much water as I could. And in some stations they even had full water bottles that you could grab, and I was just drinking as much as I could.
So, talking about Boston, we didn't talk a whole lot about Boston, but talking about Boston, how bad it was for you on that fast speed running the heat?
I felt great all the way up until mile 18. It was just one of those races where I just blinked my eyes, and all of a sudden we were at the halfway point, and I was feeling great, and I thought I was going to run a PR, and I was just every aid station I was getting the water, I was still feeling good, but at mile 18 I started getting some leg cramps. And it's once you start cramping up, there's just no going back. I tried as much as I could to try to loosen up, but they were just so tight and cramping on me that I even had to stop and stretch a little bit at one point. And I went from having an amazing time to having somewhat of a subpar marathon for me.
Definitely. That's one question I just thought about asking you is that when you slow down, do you walk or just a slow speed, adjust your pace,
Yeah, the focus went from, I'm going to run, a PR today to, I want to, be able to finish without, having to walk or anything. And I definitely, went from running 5:30 miles to 6:30 miles over the last, I don't know, like 7 or 8 miles.
Definitely. You did mention about this training plans. Do you follow any specific training plans, or you just kind of run as you feel? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm really flexible with my training. I've over the years, I've tried a lot of different things, and I just trying to figure out what works best for me. The only thing I did a little bit different this year is I focused a little more on making sure I was recovered when I had a hard workout, where before I would, even if I had a, tough workout planned for Sunday, I would still run decent mileage, Friday or Saturday leading up to that, where, this training block, I still focus on getting a lot of miles in, but when I did have a tough workout coming up and I didn't feel like I was recovered, I made sure to, take it easy, which would mean, 6 or 7 mile run instead of, trying to go longer.
Definitely. And you did mention about this, but I was just wondering, whenever you focus on your training, do you focus on speed, distance, or both?
Both. I think you really have to have, a good balance. You definitely need, the distance I think the distance is more important. But you have to have the speed aspect as well. And also that's the fun part of running.
Definitely. Yeah. The speed is also relative to people. As some of the listeners listening, I said, yeah, but speed for fast for you, maybe slow for somebody, or slow for me is fast for somebody else. So we just have to look at our own speed. That's what I usually tell people.
On most training weeks, I'll run what I considered hard, 1 to 2 days a week. And then, the rest of the week, I'm just getting miles in.
So you run a little bit slower pace on those. What's the time difference, just to kind of get people get an idea?
So an easy day for me is I'll run 6:45 to 7:30 per mile. And then faster days are between 5:30 and 6 minutes per mile.
So like about 2 minutes.
Yeah, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there, definitely. So that's a good thing to listen, because I'm going back in training, and I really need a training, and I want to mix it like what you're talking about. What type of nutrition plan do you follow, or do you follow any?
During training, I just try to eat as many fruits and vegetables as I can. I'm not super picky about certain foods. Leading up to a marathon, I'll do your traditional carbo load and eat, tons and tons of pasta. And then, the day of the marathon, I normally don't eat much at all. In the morning, I'll, just eat maybe a bagel or something, just something enough to settle my stomach. I drink coffee, and then during the race, I take a goo at the starting line, I carry them with me, and then I keep one in my pocket for later in the race. Yeah,
I try to stay as light as possible on the race day, but I eat whatever on the course. Try to eat bananas and oranges if they have them. They had it at BigSur.
Yeah, I always BigSur. They always have the strawberries at mile 23, and everyone talks about how amazing they are, but I'm always in such a rush that I blow right by them and never get any. You mentioned that I saw a video, somebody posted that, and then I knew that I was going to stop. There was 3 places I was going to stop, and there was one of them. So I kind of grabbed a whole bunch of strawberry and I kept on running and ate. That's what you have to do next year. Or just tell them ahead of time. Tell them put in a little bag so you can grab your bag. Strawberries to go. Yeah, strawberries to go. What is your favorite race and why? Maybe it's BigSur or Boston or anything else. How many races have you done so far? So I've run 16 marathons. I have to say BigSur is my favorite, and Boston is my second favorite. A few other ones I've run that I've really enjoyed is Berlin, Chicago, and the LA Marathon. Are you trying to do world major marathon? Because now you got Berlin, Boston, Chicago. You got only a couple left. So yeah, I'm actually halfway there, and definitely New York is on my radar. That might be one of the next big ones I do. But yeah, London and Tokyo both would be amazing races as well.
Yeah, I have done Tokyo. It's just such a great race. Is there any race, I think you just mentioned already, is there any race you have not run that you'd love to run one day?
Probably the ultra marathons. I mean, I'm not really sure exactly which one. I think Western States I would probably consider the ultimate ultra run. I haven't moved up in that distance yet.
Tell me why you have not moved up in that distance.
I really enjoy the marathon distance, and I'm worried that once I move up, the marathon distance won't feel like a challenge to me anymore, and also I feel like it's hard to move back down once you move up in distance.
Definitely. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier as well, but a lot of time people switch back and forth. I think you will be okay, but especially the reason why I'm asking this question, because you live in such a beautiful area and so many mountains. I mean, I was looking at, as I was running, first I look at left to see this beautiful ocean, and look at the up in the mountain. I was like, can I go there? Can I climb some of these things? Can they put the course and go up the mountain? I don't mind. But you'll not have problem training for you if you go to trail ultra distances, because you have a beautiful place to run.
Yeah, we have amazing trails in Big Sur and all along the peninsula. We're very fortunate for that.
Definitely. Next time I come, I wanted you to point me towards those trails, so I'll just because I don't know how to get there. So, and I don't know if it's a private properties, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll get to come again sometime. Adam, we talked about many things in this interview. You're training Big Sur, Boston, many highlights, and you're running fast and everything. Before we conclude this interview, I just want you to give a word of advice to people who are listening. Try to take their training and go achieve the goal they want to achieve, like you have done, and win a race maybe. So just
I think one thing that has been key to my success is just being very disciplined about my training. Getting out there every day and being consistent with it. It's really easy to lose focus. So just staying focused and just really enjoy, the time that you spend running.
Definitely. That sounds like great advice, even for me, to be disciplined with my training. I have not been disciplined for a while. And it shows in the race day. So I cannot show up in the race and try to push it and not having training, but definitely I promised myself to you. So I'll do better next time.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for your time, and great talking to you. And I'll catch you when I come back to Big Sur or somewhere we meet. So.
Okay. Thank you, Suman.
Thank you. If you have a need to cover your event, from marketing to taking photos, please contact mruns.com by emailing at marathonruns@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of MRuns Podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast channel, Voice of Runners, at iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and more. And also follow our social media channel, Marathon Runs, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.